Hi, my name is Ken Aaron, and you're watching Open Agenda. And I'm not going to take much time here with the prologue because we have a very interesting subject tonight. But I do want to say that I heard a very interesting thing the other day, that history doesn't repeat itself. People repeat history if they don't know it. So it's really good to know about the background, at least of recent history in the 20th century, our modern age. So our guest tonight is Jim DiEugenio, and he's the author of a book called The Assassinations. We've been talking about the assassination of RFK, and we're right up at the point now where, in the last show we were talking, RFK's on the floor, he's got 4 bullets in him. Sirhan Sirhan has been taken down by Rosie Greer, right?
Well, understand the milieu at the Ambassador Hotel that night. You have all these people who have worked for RFK during the campaign, who are now exuberant, okay? And he comes down to the ballroom.
So we're at the top of the world.
Right.
Oh, he had just gone through a campaign and just had a big victory.
Right.
It wasn't like a shoe-in. It was a conflict.
Yeah, nobody really knew it was going to happen.
So it's like a touchdown pass and he won.
Right. And I think in this first photo where he begins to come to the podium.
Let's pull up that photo of JFK, of RFK.
Yeah. Again, in this photo, Bobby has come down from his 5th floor suite, all right, to address the crowd. And this is really understand the mood at the Ambassador that night. It was really kind of touch and go, all right, up until that night. And so it's a mood of really, joy, exuberance. I mean, these people are being absolutely thrilled, okay, because they really feel that Bobby now has fulfilled the destiny from 1964, the standing ovation at the convention.
And he just accomplished a campaign success, like a Hail Mary touchdown pass.
And also understand, taking what we know about history today, what's going to happen here is basically the death of the 1960s. What's going to happen in a few seconds after that shot. Okay, because Bobby's basically the last of these great leaders, all right? And with him, when he went down, basically it was all over. Okay, this leads to the election of Richard Nixon. So imagine the mood swing that's going to take place.
So you're
at this hotel that night.
I understand, but it's not. This is not something everybody's covered. So you already had JFK.
Right.
Malcolm
X.
Malcolm X.
King 2 months earlier.
King 2 months earlier.
Right, and now Bobby. And so that's basically the death knell for a whole political decade. What's going to happen. So Bobby comes into the. If you've ever been there, it's very difficult to get into the Ambassador Hotel now. Okay, but I've seen photographs and I've been around it and I've seen films. There's a long corridor that narrows off, okay, where you walk along the wall and you go into the pantry. There's these swinging doors. All right, now once RFK gets into the pantry, he starts shaking hands with some of the workers. Okay, now he's just shaking hands with this Juan Romero guy, all right? So he turns and suddenly there's Sirhan Sirhan is standing next to this girl in a polka dot dress, all right? And the witness reports say that he looks at her, he smiles, she says something to him, all right? Then he bursts forth with this Iver Johnson .22 revolver and starts firing. Now imagine if you're there. Imagine if you're there, okay? The minute he springs out from the crowd and the flame starts coming out of the pistol, everybody's attention, of course, goes to him, all right? All right, so obviously, if anybody wanted to do something else, okay, you could, because every eye in the place is going to be right there. Nobody's going to be looking behind. Nobody's going to be looking this way either, okay? All right, now that's important because of some of the things I'm going to say later. Just imagine being there visually, okay? So RFK gets hit 4 times. Okay, and there's 5 other people. Now, this next photo that we're going to see, this is very important because he's subdued, okay, by approximately 4 different people. That's George Plimpton, okay, the most obvious character in that one.
On the left is George Plimpton.
That's George Plimpton, okay.
Let's go over. Who's behind him?
But there's also, Rayford Johnson is not in that photo, okay? And neither is Rosie Greer. I mean, this must be just like a few seconds right after. Okay, but a guy that you can't see, on the right is Carl Euchre. Carl Euchre is the maitre d' who's leading RFK through the pantry.
With the glasses and some mustache?
Okay, no. Carl Euchre is directly on the right frame of the photograph.
Okay.
All right, now, very interesting. Carl Euchre testified at Sirhan's trial that he had grabbed Sirhan's wrist after the second shot. Okay? All right. Now, after Sirhan is subdued, okay, two very interesting things happen. The girl in the polka dot dress, now to set this up, imagine if you're there and you've seen this. Because if you listen to the witness reports, people were literally having nervous breakdowns. They couldn't believe what had happened. They were inconsolable. They were crying. Rosie Greer was crying like a baby, sitting down on the floor. He couldn't believe, and everybody's just stunned.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
Right? Because everybody understands subconsciously, if you couldn't articulate it, subconsciously you know this is a disaster. This is a debacle. Okay? But the girl in the polka dot dress starts running. She starts running away out of the scene, okay, with a guy who's with her. Sandra Serrano, who's a Kennedy worker from Altadena, is sitting on the back fire escape, the iron steps that lead down to the back of the hotel. Okay? And so the girl in the polka dot dress and her companion come running down the stairs, okay, in a very excited state. Okay? We killed him. We killed him.
No, get out of here.
And Sandra Serrano says, what happened? Who did you kill? Because we killed Senator Kennedy. Okay? All right. So she runs down. There's two other, two older Jewish couple called the Bernsteins in the LAPD reports who overheard her say it, okay, to Sandy Serrano. All right? All right. Now, I think about an hour after the assassination, Sander Van Oker is interviewing witnesses. He's an NBC correspondent at the time. So Sandra Serrano gets on national television, and Sander Van Oker tells her to tell her story. And she tells it. So this story is now out everywhere. Everybody's aware of this girl in the polka dot dress who's escaped, who was with Sirhan that night. All right? Now, Michael Wayne is another mysterious character who's taller than Sirhan, but resembles Sirhan. Okay? He comes to the hotel earlier that night, does some very strange things. Okay? He asks the sound man where he's going to be recording the sound and where Robert Kennedy is going to be standing when he makes his acceptance speech. Okay?
But that's before he went into the kitchen.
He's at the hotel about 5 o'clock.
Right.
He's there early. Okay, yeah. Let me finish. Okay. Then he finds out where Kennedy's suite is that night. Okay, and walks up to the 5th floor. Okay, to look around. Comes back to the ballroom. Then he asks, where's the colonial room, which is where RFK is going to end up going. So he goes into the kitchen pantry earlier, finds out where the colonial room is that night. Okay? All right. Then, before Kennedy goes into the kitchen pantry, that's where Michael Wayne is. He's in the colonial room. Okay? All right. Now, he comes out of the colonial room during the shooting. Okay? He has a placard in his arm. He starts running in the same direction as a girl in the polka dot dress do. Now imagine, everybody's stunned, but there's these two people who have the presence of mind to start running away out of the kitchen pantry back into the ballroom. Somebody says he has a gun in his placard. He has a gun in the rolled up paper. Okay? So he gets tackled. Okay? And a security guard from Ace Security Services takes him away. Okay? All right. Now, that's what happens that night. Sirhan is apprehended, of course. He's the prime suspect. Everything would have been fine except for one thing. Thomas Noguchi was an honest coroner. Okay? Could not be dissuaded, could not be intimidated, could not be swayed in any way.
So excuse me, so where did they take the body?
Okay. The body goes to Good Samaritan Hospital.
Which is in where?
Which is right down in Wilshire, down from the Ambassador Hotel by about 3 miles. Okay, Thomas Noguchi is a coroner of Los Angeles. All right, they call him. Now this is how smart Thomas Noguchi is. He calls up Cyril Wecht, the coroner of Pittsburgh, and says Bobby Kennedy's been assassinated. Okay, I know what happened in Dallas. What should I do? He goes, well, I'll come in and I'll get Pierre Fink, who did the autopsy on JFK, all right, will supervise so nobody can question what you're doing after the fact. So they come in and they supervise what everybody has said is the autopsy of the century. Nobody can question it. Like the JFK autopsy is a mess. Nobody can question Noguchi's autopsy. I've seen the report, 62 pages long.
So there's no problem with a chain of evidence or anything?
No, everything is fine with this autopsy. So now remember the scene at the Ambassador. RFK, you're RFK, I'm Sirhan. I come like this to you.
Right.
All right, I'm about this range. Okay, now, where would you say most of the bullets had to hit?
In the chest or
face? In the chest and neck area, right?
Yeah.
All right? All right. And every witness says that Sirhan's arm was always parallel to the ground. Okay? All right?
Right, and when that happens, unless you're trained, you freeze.
Yeah.
When somebody puts a gun, you just freeze.
Right.
Unless you're a martial artist or something. That's your normal reaction.
Noguchi's autopsy says, without question, every single bullet that went into RFK came in from behind, came in at an extreme upward angle of 65 to 75 degrees, and came in at what he calls contact range. And when they asked him, what do you mean, what's contact range? He goes, the common word for contact range is point blank, okay, which means either the gun was flush against the skin or within a range of 3 inches, okay? And because, he said, there was what we call tattooing around the wound. He goes, what that means is when you expel a pistol, there's particles that go into the air from the explosion in the cylinder, okay? If there's no contact, they splatter into the air and nobody sees them again. But if it's within 3 inches, they go into the skin and they create a tattoo around the wound.
A circle like a halo.
So these wounds had tattooing on them. So I know for a fact whoever killed him was within 3 inches of contact range.
I'm going to step on a technical point here. The tattooing would occur even through the jacket and the shirt?
No. The fatal wound was here.
Oh, it was on the skin.
Okay, the fatal wound
up
is
at an
here,
angle.
at an angle, and they had tattooing on it.
Oh, so it wasn't in the back. It was.
Okay, there were 2 wounds in the back. Okay, but this one had tattooing on it.
I see.
Okay, all right. Now the fourth bullet went through his jacket. Okay, but did not actually hit his skin. It went through his jacket. So Noguchi's autopsy is dynamite, because there is not one single witness you can find at the Ambassador Hotel that ever hallucinates that Sirhan is behind RFK.
Or that RFK turned around.
Or that RFK was turned. Nobody says that. Carl Euchre said, when he saw this is impossible. Sirhan was always in front of me, and I was always between RFK and Sirhan. You know? Plus, I had Sirhan's wrist after the second shot. There's no way he could have directed those shots.
So he testified now.
Oh, no, well, we didn't get to that yet.
Okay.
LAPD knows they got a problem now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can't have Noguchi testify like this.
No, wait a minute.
Okay.
That statement indicates you're implying that LAPD is complicit in this action.
Have you read the testimony at the trial?
No.
Okay. That's what I was getting to. Okay. Before Noguchi goes into testify at the trial, one of the assistant DAs approaches him as he's waiting in the hallway and says, Dr. Noguchi, are you sure it wasn't 3 feet instead of 3 inches? And he goes, no, I'm sure it had to have been 3 inches or less. He begins, what's going to happen here? Okay, so when he goes in to testify, nobody asks him about the distance problem. Nobody asks him about that. Not even Sirhan's. In fact, Sirhan's attorney objects to his testimony. He says, we don't need to go into any more of the details.
Whoa.
We don't want to go into any of the details. Okay? So none of that, none of the very important, if you read, I shouldn't laugh at it because it's a serious thing. Yeah. If you read Noguchi's testimony at the trial, and I'm not exaggerating, okay, it takes up 1.5 pages.
Oh my.
4 questions from the defense. Okay?
The defense was a public defender or something?
No, it was Grant Cooper, who's a very high-profile lawyer at that time. We don't have enough time to go into how he was compromised. Okay, but there's no doubt he was. All right? So in other words, here's the guy who could blow the case wide open, and he's hardly on the stand, you know, except for like at the most 10 minutes.
A 60-page report on the autopsy.
Yeah, you could have spent 3 days on this guy. He would have blown the case apart. All right? Now, this third photograph.
Yeah, we can bring up the third photograph.
Okay. Is also a very interesting photograph because this is Thomas Noguchi, at the Ambassador Hotel.
This is the guy who did the autopsy.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. Because what is he pointing at? He's pointing at holes in the wall which he suspects are bullets. Now here's the problem. LAPD's report, okay, because Sirhan's revolver only carried 8 shots, and there were 5 other people hit, and RFK is hit 4 times, you just do the very basic math and how many bullets you come up with.
5 plus 4 is 9.
9. You got too many bullets.
Yeah, but maybe they got some of those magic bullets
now
from Plasma.
Now here comes magic bullet time. Okay, here the LAPD understood we don't have enough bullets here. Okay,
you know, I saw that movie, What Happened to Roger Rabbit. You know, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? The bullet goes up and it goes around.
So now they had to do some very interesting things with bullets. They had to have, for example, the bullet that goes through RFK's jacket, and I'm pointing in the direction where it's supposed to hit. Now it's supposed to go this way.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's hit from behind. This bullet then has to go backwards to hit Paul Schrade going upward at an upward angle. Okay, then you have bullets going off the ceiling. Okay, going downward, but they then bounce upward to hit a woman who's bending over. Okay, in the forehead like this. Okay, there's 3 bullets in this case that do the magic bullet stuff that we know about from the John F. Kennedy case. This is the other serious problem.
Okay, but without all of that, what was it accepted or whatever, you know, that he only shot 4 shots?
That he only shot 4 shots.
Sirhan Sirhan, you said 4.
Sirhan's revolver carried 8 bullets.
But you said he shot 4.
No, 4 went into Kennedy.
Oh, 4 went into Kennedy.
Okay, but you had 5 other victims.
But were they all 8 shots discharged?
Well, that's another interesting question. That's another interesting question. Okay, because that, if you can believe it, okay, Euchre says he hit him after the 2nd shot.
Yeah.
Okay, when Sirhan was under hypnosis, okay, he said he only had 6 shots in the revolver. There's 2 bullets in his car that they find later. Okay.
That corroborates that ritual.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So he didn't get off 6. Even if he got off 8, you would have had to have 3 magic bullets.
Well, look, even if you come up with 8 bullets, if you ever saw the diagrams that Dwayne Wolfer did to get these bullets into place, to do the things that they had to do, okay, he actually changed it, by the way. He changed the drawing when he realized he had too many bullets. Okay, he had to change it from the first drawing to the 2nd drawing, okay, to allow that he had too many bullets. All right, and now you have Noguchi pointing at these holes in the wall. You have, I think, 5 different witnesses who said they saw holes either in the walls or in the swinging door jamb. Okay, bullet holes. You have 2 policemen who actually Vincent Bugliosi interviewed, and one of them filed an affidavit saying, we took a bullet out of the door jamb of the swinging doors coming into the pantry. There was a bullet in there. Okay, we saw it. Okay? So you have, in my opinion, you have at least 12 bullets. All right? And in fact, Professor Hacker up at Stanford got the tapes, the audio tapes that night in the Ambassador Hotel. Okay? And he ran them through a sound machine, an oscillator, okay? Because you can diagnose sound, acoustical sound. And he says, in my opinion, there's at least 10 bullets, more likely 12 bullets going off on this tape. Okay, this acoustical tape.
Okay, so because this is an event where the reporters were following RFK as he's walking through the kitchen.
There's tape recorders going through.
And there's tape recorders on.
Right.
People are for radio stations. But there's cameramen too, right?
Right.
And there's
Scott Enyart, who's a young photographer, followed RFK into the pantry.
For stills.
Jumped up on, you know, when RFK turned around, started taking photographs, okay? And he says he had 3 rolls of photographs that night.
3 what?
3 rolls of film that night.
3 rolls, yeah.
Yeah. So he's walking away. He's accosted by the police, thrown into a car, taken down to the police station. They want the pictures. He goes, what do you need my pictures for? He goes, at the trial of Sirhan, we're going to need them. So he goes, gives them the pictures.
Oh.
No photographs from Scott Enyart were ever shown at the trial of Sirhan. So he calls up Police Chief Gates, says, can I have my pictures back now? This has been quite a while. Okay. He says, well, the judge ordered them to go up to the Sacramento archives. So they're going to have to stay up there. Okay. He says, for how long? For 20 years. 20 years go by. He calls up the Sacramento archivist and says, can I have my pictures now that the judge ordered up here? He goes, the judge never ordered these pictures up here. He goes, what? He goes, the judge never ordered these pictures to come up here. He goes, how'd they get up here? The police wanted them up here. He goes, you mean I could have got them? He goes, yeah. He goes, you didn't have to wait for 20 years. He goes, we would have given them to you. All right? So
he got them. He got the pictures.
No, he didn't get the pictures. Funny thing happened. He says he took over 100 pictures. He only gets 18 back. None of them are in the pantry. So they say they're going to give him the rest back. Okay? So they send a messenger service down to Los Angeles from Sacramento, okay, to give him the rest of the pictures. The messenger service stops at a gas station at Sepulveda and Wilshire. The guy leaves the back window down.
Come on,
There's a valise in the back seat, okay? A guy comes in to the station, takes the valise, takes the pictures are gone, okay? So Scott never gets his pictures, all right? So Scott sues the LAPD, and he won $975,000 lawsuit, okay, for being negligent with his photographs.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I got to ask you a question, Jim.
Right.
You wrote a book called The Assassinations.
Right.
And you went over these 4 assassinations.
Mm-hmm.
JFK, Malcolm X, MLK, RFK. Okay, so the details are there in this and so forth. This is obviously this complicity in multiple state, federal,
yes,
county, everybody's involved,
yes,
right?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. They went along with it, yes.
But before I get to my other question, the girl in the polka dot dress.
Amazing story. Absolutely
what's
amazing
her name?
story.
Where is she?
Okay, nobody ever found her because the LAPD knew that they had to get rid of her some way. So what they tried to do, they substituted a girl named Valerie Schulte, who was actually at the Ambassador Hotel that night.
Yeah.
Big problem. Well, actually 3. Number 1, everybody said the girl was dark.
Yeah.
Valerie Schulte is a Nordic type, blonde hair, very white skin. Okay, everybody said the polka dots were black on white. She had yellow polka dots on a green dress. Sandra Serrano says the girl ran down the stairs. Okay? Valerie Schulte had broken her leg in a skiing accident about 3 weeks before, so she had a cast on her leg that night.
That's the best they could do.
And so that's the best
but
they knew they had to get rid of them.
They need Jennifer Lopez and they get Red Sonja.
They get Kim Basinger, right? Okay, so
Jesus.
All right.
So my okay. So this is so obviously this is like Marx Brothers. This is
but
like,
let me tell you the significance of the girl in the polka dot dress. Very significant. Sirhan's last memory that night is having a cup of coffee with this girl. Okay, and under hypnosis, they asked him, Diamond, the psychiatrist, the court-appointed psychiatrist, and Sirhan could do what they call automatic writing, which is when you go under hypnosis, okay, your deepest thoughts come out, but you're like a robot, and it takes you a really long time to write things down. He asked him, Sirhan, was there anybody with you that night? Okay? All right, first he phrased it as, did you have any accomplices? He said, no, no, no. He says, was anybody with you? And he writes out, the girl, the girl, the girl. Okay? So that's the last thing he remembers, was having the cup of coffee. Then he says, and I followed the girl back into the hotel, which meant the pantry, which is where Juan Romero sees the girl standing next to him. I think 2 witnesses see her standing next to him.
And maybe there's something in the coffee, this, that.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I hate to shock you, but we're near out of time. So I do want to ask my question, which is, these assassinations are so obviously indicate compromised government. You know, how could they not get resolved? How could somebody who comes into office like Clinton or somebody on the other side says, I'm going to square this up. I don't care if it's 80 years ago. We're going to deal with this. You know, how can it go on? This deception just persists.
Well, because I think that tells you the forces at work here, okay? The forces at work to pull things like this off. I mean, do you understand how powerful these people must be? And also, not just the actual conspiracies, okay, but the cover-ups that go into effect afterward are so powerful, all right? And there's so many people have so much at stake. And because we're closing off, finally, the media. Do you really think that they want to hear the truth about this? Because that would say You mean we fell for a cover story? Do you really think they're going to admit that? No, they're not going to admit it. The institutional memory of these institutions is very strong.
Okay.
Okay? And
All
so we
right.
have to depend on people like you, Ken.
Yes.
You know,
well, people like you to write the books.
Right.
Seriously, I just tell the audience. I mean, you might feel like you can't rage against the machine because it's too much to fight against. But you can know, you can find out, and you can at least be aware yourselves to know, and then you can speak about it and be more alert the next time it happens. So the show's over. Keep sending those emails. Catch me next time, and go out and do something good for somebody. Okay? Thanks for watching.